Today we'll take our jittery time lapse from a sea star of a partial solar eclipse and stabilize it using PIPP and Siril. This isn't going to be a catch-all situation, so it may not work for everyone, but this video will give you an idea of how to stabilize other time lapses, especially if they look something like mine. And when I looked at the time lapse on my phone after taking it, it looked fine, but as soon as I got it on my computer, any player I used, it was just, you saw it, it was kind of terrible. So I looked to see if the frames themselves were okay, and luckily Pip and Siril were able to read the frames as they came through the sea star. But the sea star had a little bit of trouble tracking because of clouds, because of other unknown situations, and I just needed to make sure it was stable. Now, some of you have already figured out that you can use pip to stabilize the time lapse, which is awesome. But one thing to know about pip is that first, it's a Windows only program, and second, it is no longer being maintained by the maintainer. The website doesn't even exist anymore. So eventually, as technology upgrades, pip will be left behind and it will stop working. But it still works for now, and I'm going to show you how to use it. But to give you an alternative, we're also going to take a look at how to do this in Siril, which is being actively maintained, and it will work on any operating system. Now let's dive in. First, we're going to use this called PIP. It is no longer maintained, no longer made. So we are going to go to, you can look for this online. You can go to archive.org and get it there. But I also archived this on my GitHub. Get it here. The link is in the description below. This is from the original site before it got taken down a couple years ago. So once you have this zipped, you can install it. And once you install it, it looks something like this. Pretty basic, but it's a really good software. To use it is pretty simple. We're going to first copy or click and drag our file in here. And on my other window here, it gave me a little preview of what we're looking at here. And you can click on some of these optimized options for settings here, and we have a full solar lunar disk. If we click on this, it will automatically pre-fill some of the other options in the other tabs that we'll look through now. So we'll go to input options. You want to make sure that our images are debared, and everything else you can keep as is in this tab. Next, we'll go to the processing options. You want to uncheck this where it says convert color to monochrome. If you don't uncheck it, it'll spit out a monochrome image. I don't know why that's on by default all the time. Frame stabilization, it just says object planetary. So we're going to keep that as is because it's going to try and force the entire globe of the sun into the center. Click on enable object detection, rejects frame without object. So all those frames that we saw without the sun in there because of the clouds, they'll get rejected, which is great. The object detection parameters, 50 pixels, we can actually increase it even more. Since it's a big sun, we're going to go up to 200. Next, the auto detection threshold. If you click on detect threshold, it'll tell you what it is detecting. There you go. It is detecting the sun in this frame at least, which is pretty cool. Center the object in each frame. We do want to do that. We don't want to select any of these. If you click on none, it'll center the sun as best as it can. Enable cropping. You can enable cropping. It'll give you like a square input, but we don't have to with DC star thing, so I'm going to uncheck it. So it'll be a 4K resolution, vertical resolution. Going to the quality options here, we want to check all of these off because we don't want it to do any kind of quality estimation. We definitely don't want it to reorder the frames because it will mess things up and you won't have an actual time lapse. Going to the animation options, I think this actually should have been after this one because everything here is disabled until you go to animation options and then you click on AVI, and then this works. But going back to the output options, you have a bunch of options here. You can do TIFF, FITS, PNG. It'll do individual frames, but if you do AVI, it'll give you an actual video. And in the AVI options, you can select uncompressed AVI, or you can do an MP4, lossy compression, which I think for this kind of video is totally fine. Like, you don't have to do an uncompressed AVI, which will take a while to do depending on how many frames you have, how fast your computer is. Or you can do an MP4 and it'll give you a really nice MP4 file. And you can even select a quality of 10, which will give you the best possible quality. It uses the same frame rate as the video if possible, or it just defaults to 60. I think my video is 30 frames per second, or however the time lapse works. And you can leave everything else as is. We're going to go to do processing. You can click on test options and it will do a quick test to see if it will be able to run your thing. Takes like less than a second. And then when you're ready, you click on start processing and let it go through all of your frames, and it'll take a little while depending on how fast your hard drive is, how fast your computer is. I am reading this from an external slow drive, so it'll take a couple of minutes. All right, that took almost 5 minutes, a little bit under 5 minutes to complete. And in my folder here, I have a new folder called pip underscore blah, blah, blah. And there's an AVI file here. This is about 73 megs, not long. Let's see what that looks like when we load it. So you can see that it does still kind of lose the sun when the clouds happen, but for the most part, it's actually pretty stable, right? So I think so I didn't get the beginning of the eclipse, unfortunately, because of how the C star and my iPad were acting, but you can see that it's pretty stable, and all those frames in between where the sun was not visible at all, those are gone, and it is pretty stable. So let's see, can I play this at faster speed? All right, that was actually pretty good, right? Just the beginning part is where it shook because of the clouds coming through, but that can get cropped out. But it was really smooth. I'm really impressed with what PIPP did. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is going to be with Siril. So let's open up Siril. I have a blank working directory, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to conversion. I am going to go to my folder that has my AVI file or my MP4 file from the C star. Bring it in here. No scripting here. We're going to do this all manual. Do time lapse. And I'm going to click on debear, and I'll click on convert it to a SIR sequence, so not fits images, because we want to keep it one file instead of 4,000 individual fits files. All right, I had a lot of frames and it loaded them. Took about 8.5 minutes to do. And now if we go to the sequence, you can click on open frames list here, or the bottom right hand side. You can look through the frames here. I would recommend going through these and trying to get rid of frames where they're clearly not going to show the sun. Like these are fine, sure. Okay, I went through a bunch and I basically just unchecked things where, it's like this software will have issues trying to get the sun out of these, like these. So, okay, so I went through these, trying to make sure, you do a little bit of culling. You don't have to, you can let them just fail. And it already picked out a reference frame for me, but I'll just pick, let's see if I can find one that's near the center, like this one. I'll click on, this is the reference frame. I'll close this. We're gonna go to registration, and I'm going to switch this to image pattern alignment, which is for planetary full disk. And we're going to create a little square selection box around the sun here. And what I found is that it works best on the red channel. So if you go to blue, you can see that it's barely there. Green is pretty well there, and then red is like really there. Like the contrast is really there. So it works really well on red because the sun is mostly hydrogen, so it's in the red spectrum. And then we're going to say click select register selected images only. Otherwise, your hard work will be undone. And click on go register and let it go through its thing. Right, that took just 24 seconds, which is pretty impressive. If you open up the frames list again, you can see, like going through, you can see that the registration here moves a little bit. So, the frame here moves a little bit. You're trying to keep the sun in the center. It does a pretty good job. So we'll close this, go back to the registration tab, and now we're going to switch this to apply existing registration. Make sure selected is selected. That's it, not all of them. And it will register 4,200 out of the 4,500. That means 300 got left out. A framing method will do current. You can also do center of gravity. I found it to be iffy. From these for center of gravity, it'll try a little bit more to try and get the sun in the center, but current works pretty well. We got to estimate to see what the size will be. And then when you're done, click on go register. All right, that finished, took about almost 5 minutes. So if you open the folder here, my thing here, I have a SIR file called r_timelapse.sir. It is 101 gigabytes long. I can play this in SIR viewer. See that it is kind of still jittering, but it's actually better than before. So the trick I have here is go to the sequence, make sure the R time lapse is selected, go back to registration, I'm going to go back to image pattern alignment, select this, make a box around this, click on go register. Or that completed, we're going to go to registration and we're going to apply registration again under selected. And let's say go register. So this time, we're also doing R underscore, so it's actually gonna be 2 R underscore. We'll let this go. All right, that completed is the second round. So you see that it created an R underscore. So if you look here, there's another one. There's another 110 gigabyte SIR file here. So you bring it here. You can see that it is much smoother. Look at that, so smooth, Siril. So we're gonna go back to the sequence tab here. We're gonna, under the sequence export, name it whatever, time lapse, sun, whatever. From fits, select MP4 H264, or you can do AVI. 264 is more than enough. Set the quality to like 3 or something, goes up to 5. FPS 25, whatever, and then click on export sequence. Nothing else to do here, and give it a minute. All right, that finished. So if you look at here, we should have an R. There you go, an MP4. It's only 12 megabytes. Not bad at all. Let's play it. No real jitter. There's some there when the clouds appear, but you can see. I'm gonna let this go. Let's fast forward through this. Yeah, so there you go. And like I said, this is not going to work for all data sets, but these are just 2 ways you can go in and try and stabilize this. And now I'm going to delete these 300 gigabytes of SIR files. I hope that video was useful. I took my time lapse with my C-Star without really even monitoring that much, because I was at an outreach event with my sun funnel showing a bunch of people what the solar eclipse looked like. Tons of kids, everyone had a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. Although I am kind of sad that I missed totality, but I'm going to be there next year somewhere in the path of totality. But anyways, thanks for watching, and a huge thanks to all of my patrons on Patreon, supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, and members here on YouTube. You're all amazing. Thank you all for supporting me. If you'd like to join this list, please check out the links in the pinned comment and description below. And remember, there is a lunar eclipse happening in less than 2 weeks. I am hoping I can live stream it. There are a lot of lunar eclipse resources on this channel, so check those out. And until next time, clear skies.